In this video, we're gonna go through doing your basic croquis or basic fashion illustration, but this time I'm going to be using Adobe Illustrator. So we'll be doing this with vector software. So this should be similar if you use other types of programs, kind of like GIMP or anything that feels and operates similar to Adobe Illustrator. So what I did, I got a first source for my figure. So this is like a custom type of body that I have here that I'll be using. And these are sketches that I had done previously that I brought into Illustrator. And one of the first things that I wanted to do is to create the outlines, which could then allow me to have complete vector shapes that I can then add my own colors and so forth onto. And to give you a sense of what that looks like, this would be the next stage where I would include the vector outlines of the illustrations that I've done and brought into Illustrator. After that, what I would do, I would create like full shapes, complete shapes with color, and these would be combined. I will create like different hairstyles. If you notice below, I had different sketches of hairstyles that I wanted to use, and these will be like the hairstyles, facial features, and like the basic color of the figure. Once that is complete and you get everything done, in a different layer I would go on and have the clothing and so forth. It is a straightforward method that I use for any type of style. This is one particular style that I've used quite a bit for myself when I was designing and putting things together. And there are different ways that you could approach it. So this was also done in a similar manner where I created the basic figure underneath, and I had layers where I did the clothing, etc. on top of that after. And it's a great way for you to combine and build your wardrobe. And this is something that you could use so that you extensively have like a full library of designs that you can build and choose a collection and work from. It's for that different one. This is a second set of figures that I've used in the past before, and sometimes I come back to them depending on the library that I am working with. And they also started off in a similar way where I would have like the outlines, which I would then convert into a basic shape. And then after that, I would have like a layer where I would add my clothing details. And the nice thing with these is that I could actually go in and select all of these different things and change the color. Depending on the design that I'm doing, I could change around the colors and make changes to specific elements without having to like redraw. And it allows you to work very, very quickly and to work out ideas and concepts, which is like one of the main advantages of something like this. So you don't have to redraw, and I could also just make like a copy of this figure as you'd seen like these previous things and add on more to it. This was something where I worked a little bit more creatively, right, with some more fancier styles and some more elements where I would in a similar nature, I would do the outlines create the outlines from a sketch, and then I would go in and put the color details into it. So to give you a sense of how that happens, right, as we go from step to step, I'm just gonna cover that part very quickly in this video here. So working in Illustrator, one of the main things you want to get comfortable with is to create shapes, using lines to create shapes and complete shapes that you can manipulate, add color, add patterns, etc. So with this design, I've created a new layer below and locked everything once you've placed all of your images into Illustrator. And on the next layer, I'm going to be using the pen tool, making sure that I have no fill color, because you just want to do a line drawing. So you use the pen tool, and with the pen tool, we will create a basic shape of this figure. Now to save time, I'm not going to do the entire thing. I don't want to make the video too long. So I might just do up to the waist in this instance. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you have rulers. So if you go to view, show rulers, view rulers, right, show rulers, this will be showing show if you don't have it up, and the rulers will come up on the side here. The real reason why you want rulers is so that you can get your guidelines. If I were to take the selection tool and select and drag a line across, I will get like a guideline that I could use. And we want to work with like a center guideline so that we don't have to do the entire figure. We're going to do this thing symmetrical, and it allows you to work a little bit faster, so you could build this figure on the half. So I'm going to start, I'll come back around to the head, but I'm going to start at the neck, and you get these curves. So you want to go to click and pull horizontally, so you could get like a nice curve here, right? That means that you don't have to, some people would probably think about going like this, right? But if you notice, the line is a little bit jagged, right? So you want to get like nice curves. So I'm going to undo this, Control Z, and I'm just going to delete this one more time. So I'm using the pen tool, right? And I'm going to click once at the top and click once where near the end of the curve. So I'm going to click, hold the mouse, and drag horizontally. You see the little lines coming out from the curve? Those are the handles. So you want to pay attention to those. All right, so this is going to give you that curve there. Now I'm going to reselect the pen tool, because if you continue, it would keep going with that angle. But you want to take the pen tool and reselect on the point. Right, reselect on the anchor point. I'm zooming in some more using Control and plus. So I'm going to click, and I'm going to click here again, and I'm going to pull downward. Right, if I use the space bar, I can move the screen around. Right, because if I zoom out, I would see the larger picture. Control plus, Control minus allow you to zoom in and zoom out, and space bar will allow you to move around on the computer. So what you want to do, I'm going to zoom in a bit so I could just see this clearer. And I'm going to keep going down here to where the waist, the elbow should be, sorry. And there is a little curve here for the arm into the wrist. So let me just zoom out a little more. And I am going to, if I click here once, I could create this curve after, right? But I'm going to finish the shape, and I'm going to come back and show you how I could do that. So I'm going to click on this, get the curve for the hand. All right, I have a stylistically done hand in this instance. In this case, I want to make the curve before I finish. So I'm just going to click, hold, and pull. Notice the angle is going to give me, the angle of the handles is going to give me that little curve there. I'm satisfied with that. So I'm going to continue upward here. And if I want, I could adjust this later on by using the handles to affect the curve. To do that, you're going to use the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow. Click on that and make your adjustments there. If you click on one of these points, which is an anchor point, right? Using the direct selection tool, you could affect change to only that anchor point. Right, if you want to do to an entire image, you will have to use the first tool, which is the selection tool, and makes you change. You will have to change everything, right? But sometimes you just want to get the direct selection tool and go select, deselect, just to make sure you're not clicking on anything else. And if you hover over, if you click on it, you could click on the line, or you could click on the anchor point. So you just get like that. If I click here, I could get this guy, right? I could get this guy. You see like this little point there that allows you to make curves. It could soften that curve there. But in this case, we want to change the path of this arm here, right? We want to make it a little bit more curvier. So with that in mind, we're going to go back to the pen tool, and we're going to get the anchor point tool. And in this case, this will allow me to create more of a shape with the with the lines that we have selected, right? This might be a little bit too much, so I'm just going to take it back in a bit. I think that is fine. And now I'm going to go back, click and hold the mouse down so you get the other options. Pen tool, click here. I'm going to click to get the waist in this figure, and I'm going to click to get a curve here. I'm going to stop at the hip. Alright, I'm just going to stop at the hip with, just because of this demo. And if you notice, like, I'm having a curve that will continue this way. I don't want to get this happening. Now, there are a couple ways I could deal with that. I could use the direct selection tool and affect change that way. Alright, by clicking just the handle and adjusting the line. If I hold Alt, right, if I hold Alt or Shift, it can restrict some of the movements. But also, gonna do undo. If I just click back the pen tool and just select on the anchor point, it'll kind of reset it. So I'm just gonna take that to the center there. Right. Now, I'm just gonna finish this part here. I'm not gonna do a line up this way, but I'm just gonna deselect. Right, select, deselect. But I want to continue from this to finish the neck across the center line. So I'm gonna click here, continue that point to that line. So we have the first half of the figure, right? And in this case, I'm just gonna use, the idea is I'm gonna use like a different shape for the head. Like I'll do a complete shape from the tool panel here. And let me use, I'm gonna do a rounded rectangle. So if I click this, now before I release the mouse, if you click, hold and drag, it's gonna give you a shape, right? And if I hold the mouse button up or down, it's gonna change the corners of this, right? So I wanted a head that felt a little bit longer. So I'm using the up and down arrow before I release the left click on the mouse, just to get like a more rounded shape. I think that's fine. I'm gonna release and I'm gonna move it into place here. Right? Maybe resize it a little bit. Hold Shift to maintain the proportions, and that will do for now for me, at least for this demo. So let me just move this up. Now, the main thing we want to pay attention to here is making this shape complete. So the next thing we're going to do is click. Make sure that you have the selection tool. Click on the entire shape. We want to complete the shape so we can give it a fill color and all those different things that will allow us to add the patterns, etc. So use the selection tool, click on the series of lines, and if we click once with the reflect tool, click once on the guideline, the state will change to this black arrow. And what this means is that now with the left click mouse button, click, hold, and drag to the right, right? This will create a reflection. Now before you do anything else, do not release the left click of the mouse button. You want to hold Alt first on the keyboard, right? This would allow you to see that extra icon below the reflect icon, the black icon there. And now you're going to be making a copy of this instead of just reflecting the original shape, right? Because you want to create the second half. And one more thing you want to do is to hold down Shift. And what Shift does is that it snaps this thing into place, right? We want this to be 90 degrees because we wanted to make sure that it's perfectly balanced on the other side. Right, so now you should have the shift key held down, the Alt key held down, and the left click mouse button. First thing I want to release is the left click on the mouse button, and then you could release the keys on the keyboard, and you have this reflected. Now, what is left to do is that you need to join these shapes. If I take the selection tool, this shape does not connect to that other bit. So Control Z, and I'm going to take the direct selection tool, join these two guys. Right, so I'm going to join these two guys at the anchor points. So I need to take the selection tool so I can only select this area with the anchor points, and we're going to go to Object, Path, Average, just to make sure they both line up equally, both points line up equally, and click OK. and then we're going to go to Object, Path, Join. Right, so now if I take the selection tool, both of them are connected and it's all nice. Right, now we need to be careful. You need to pay attention that anything that falls along the center, you want to join them. So you're going to go same direct selection tool, and you want to select those two shapes again, Object, Path, Average, both, and then Object, Path, Join. Right, sometimes if you're having problems like all the things are not connecting, maybe you made a mistake and had like a point there that you're selecting, or you're not selecting just the two anchor points, or you are selecting your guides. And if you have that problem, view guides, you can make sure that your guides are locked. View guides, make sure the guides is locked. Right, so you won't select it whilst you're selecting other things in your shape. So Control minus, I'm going to zoom out. This is a complete shape here. So if I were to take this easy selection tool, I could change the color of the line, or I can give it a fill color as well. So depending on what form you want for your figure, you could have the fill color, and I could do the same thing for the top. So I'm just going to select this top head piece, and I'm going to take the eyedropper tool so I could sample all the same color and details, so I get that in as well. Right, so I will have my head and all those things set for what we need to do. Now, from there, this is where I would have taken all those shapes and created like the basic figure here, and the same thing would have gone for the head. Now if you notice, I don't have outlines on these things, right? They're all shapes, right? All it is, it's a matter of this case here where I don't have like an outer line. Okay, now that's just like a basic simple way for you to get up and going, creating your shapes, and from there it's a matter of adding like all your clothing details in a similar format, and you can then go on to designing a collection and creating interesting, wonderful designs. Right, if there's a need to go like even more in depth with some of the extra things that I would do, I could probably do that in a later video, but for now this is where we're at. Thank you.